Hey guys, welcome back to Tethan Props. At the end of the last video, we had the lightsaber assembled and primed. So all the final finishing work was done. So this is ready to start painting. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. So I've already got my grey primer down, so I don't need to worry about priming it anymore. But the first layer I want to put on is gloss black, because I'm going to put silver on top of that. And because of that, gloss black is a really good base. So just like with priming, I'm going to paint them two bits separately. So just like with when I did the priming, I'm going to use some scrap PVC to cover up where I don't want paint. So again, I don't want paint on the connector between the two parts, inside there, or inside the coupler where the lightsaber actually goes. So just going to use that scrap PVC to block off those areas. And now these act as handles. I'm going to go paint these. So as I said, we're going to start off with the gloss black and we'll see how it looks after that. So the black gloss is down, looks really good. You can see good reflection off there, which means it's a smooth surface, uniform paint job. So this part of the handle, I want to keep black because it's going to be wrapped in leather later. So I don't want to have silver showing through just in case there's a little bit of gap. So I want to keep that black, which means I'm just going to use my masking tape once I can find the end around the lip there. And just with a bit of paper towel, we can cover the rest of it. Just like that, ready to go. So this bit will be silver, this whole thing will be painted silver. So I've got my silver spray can warming up right now. Once that is fully warmed up, I'll spray it because, again, once you have a heated spray paint can, it's a much finer mist, so it gives it a better look for the type of metal that I'm going for. So let's go paint this now. So there we have the silver paint down. I've taken off where I taped off earlier for the handle. And now what we need to do is put the leather on the handle here. So I've got this template here, which I've just cut out. So that wraps around perfectly. So I know that's the size of the leather that I need. I've just got a scrap piece here, which I just then need to trace out. Now I can cut this out. So that is going to be the leather that's wrapped around. So in the design that Jake supplied, it was a herringbone pattern. So I'm going to do something a little bit different, just more along the lines of what I've done with the other ones. I'm going to put some string underneath as kind of an inlay shape. And then we're going to stitch this together, slide it on and glue it on. So it'll look really cool. So what I'm going to do is do 2 rings that wrap around in the opposite directions, and that should put a really cool effect underneath. So I've got my string, I've got my glue, just going to glue it on. I know the strings are in the correct place now, which means I can go down and just put a layer of glue over the whole thing, and that'll really lock the strings in place. Next thing I need to do is the stitching on the leather. So we'll just evenly space out holes on each side, and you want them to line up, so that when we're stitching, it makes a better pattern. What I need to do now is go and cut a little hole on each of those so that we can go back and stitch through. Cut off a length of string. Now using tweezers, just got to start stitching it. So I'm going to leave it stitched really loosely so that I can slide it over the handle and tighten it up. So I want to make sure that this is glued onto this really well. And to do that, I'm going to use contact cement. So what I need to do is just put a generous layer over the whole thing, slide this over, and then tighten it up. Now it's on there, I just need to start tightening it all up and slowly bringing it in. And then just a dab of glue on top will set that in place. And there we go. Very nice looking handle there. So I'm just going to let that sit for a bit, cut those off, and then that is the handle done. Alright, so handle is done, silver is done. It's time to start weathering this. So the couple things I need is black paint and just a wet paintbrush. So you'll see why in a second. So I'm just going to get my black paint. Oh, and also just lots and lots of paper towels. You can never have too many paper towels. My wet paintbrush, I just watered down the black paint. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is just putting it on, going with my paper towel and just wiping off all the excess, and that will leave black paint in all the little grooves, nooks and crannies, especially in this details section here, and it really brings out a lot of details and makes it look a lot more real. Once I've done that, then I'll go on to the highlights. But first layer is with black. I'm just going to put it over the whole thing, and then yeah, start rubbing it off. And I'll do it in sections just so that I don't end up having dry paint in some sections. In the end, you want to make it look as natural and as random as possible, which is actually a lot harder than it sounds. Yeah, so I'm just going to finish with that little bit there. Alrighty, so I'm going to let this dry and then we'll come back and we'll do the highlights. The black has dried, it's looking really good, but now to add the final details to the painting, we're going to use Tamiya Chrome Silver, really nice paint, and a dry brush. So we're going to essentially be dry brushing the whole thing, and the technique of dry brushing is to get a little bit of paint on your paintbrush on a really, I don't know, spread out, dry, thistled paintbrush. Works really well because it leaves individual scratches due to the individual brushes. So yes, the technique is to get a tiny bit of the paint on your paintbrush, rub off most of it, and then go over and just hit the highlights. So a highlight is anywhere that the lightsaber would kind of naturally rest and scratch a little bit. So it's going to be a lot around this emblem, on all the edges, a lot on the pommel. So you kind of just have a feel for it as you're going. You don't want to overdo it because then it looks unnatural. But again, you just want to add as much as you think to make it look realistic and weathered. So it just takes practice, and depending on how weathered you want to actually go with it. So I'm just going to go over and do the whole thing now. Alright, so here's a good indication of before weathering and after weathering. So there's after and before. So you can see it's really subtle differences, but it just makes, especially in person, it makes all the difference. Like this metal all around here looks exactly like metal. It's 3D prints, but it looks like metal. So it's really in the fine details of hitting those highlights, adding in those scratches that really brings it to life. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now, and that should finish off the painting. So the painting is all done on Anakin's sword lightsaber and it's looking absolutely amazing. So now it's time to put the electronics in. So the electronics I use for this is just a simple LED system, and I use these Arlec 200 lumen USB torches. So these are really good because they're nice and compact. They have a USB charging port and they come with the lens and also the button as well. So everything you need is all in this one little torch. So to pull it apart, you just pull the lens off, and then the front section, and then the internal section slides out, and then you pull the button out. So the lens here, we want to get it out of this little metal casing. Okay. So the parts that I need are the bits from the torch, some light filters, and a spacer. So this lightsaber is going to be blue, of course, because it's Anakin's lightsaber. Definitely has to be blue. So to put this all together, I'm going to be using tape. So the reason I use tape is that if I want to change the light filters, or if something happens with the light, or any number of things, it means I can go back in, remove it easily, and fix the issue. So the next stage is to just insert it into the lightsaber. So using the correct amount of tape around, we get a nice snug fit. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to the bottom section, and then we'll be able to slide it all the way up so it's nice and snug, and then it'll be finished. And there we go. So you can see the button is now in line with the hole that we've put in. And now simply, with a pair of tweezers, we insert the button. And the way that this is designed, there's a nice little lip underneath that the button can sit in, like that. There we go, perfect. So this light has 3 phases. It's got bright, dim, and then strobing. But dim and strobing, probably never gonna use, so we'll just keep it on that bright one. And the good thing is, you still have access to the USB charging port in there, so we can still charge this lightsaber whenever we want to. So now we can insert a lightsaber blade. So I've just got a little chunk of one here. This inserts nice snug fit, perfect in there, won't come out at all. There we go. We've got a really nice bright blue blade. Really happy with how that looks. But as you can probably tell, I'm going to do something a little bit more special for this. So I'm going to make a custom acrylic blade that's going to have a 1-inch tang, so it slides in right where the lightsaber blades go in. And the acrylic blade is going to be based off the artwork. So this is going to look really good. Let's get started on that. But for now, that is Anakin's lightsaber, or the bulk of the lightsaber, done. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this episode. This was part 3 of building Anakin's lightsaber sword. The next one will focus on the acrylic blade and how we go about making that. But for this one, that was painting and lighting. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.